I think it's important that you mention that because a lot of people rely on arbitrary metrics for why they
Yeah.
continue to go. And if you're relying on follows, likes, shares, those KPIs that ultimately mean nothing in the end,
Uh-huh.
you're very vulnerable because once you just said, if you post a video and it gets 17 views, you're
Uh,
not going to be as motivated to post that next video if you're relying on that metric.
That's right.
So you do have to have some type of love for the industry or love for what you're doing. People love the journey and the transparency that one provides. You don't need to feel like you have to be an expert in your field to create content. No, that's not true.
Okay.
People like to be a part of your journey more than they like an expert, right?
Uh-huh.
Everyone thinks that you need to be an expert in your field to create content. You definitely don't, right?
Yeah.
As long as you have good heart, good soul, and a good brain, like I mentioned before, and you really are putting your best foot forward and being transparent about it, then that's the best way to go about it.
Welcome everyone to another episode of Your Lab Central. Today I'm joined with Michael. So, Michael, would you like to tell our audience why they should be excited about this conversation?
Yeah, I think the audience should be excited for this conversation because I'm just a small person who didn't have much money
Mhm.
and didn't have much influence when I first started trading the foreign exchange market.
Uh-huh.
And I really created a community that's not only impactful,
Mhm.
but very educational. And when I first started trading Forex, I had nothing to my name. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to do anything.
Mhm.
And I really learned a vast amount of knowledge, not from
Mhm.
paid communities, but just
Yeah.
learning things on my own for free.
Uh-huh.
And I think that resonates with a lot of people. They may be lost in their current
Yeah.
job or their current state of their life. And I
Mhm.
think it's very important not only to find what you like doing, but also making it a main focal point of your life.
Right.
And that's kind of what I did, not only with trading, but I created a lot of content around trading.
Mhm.
And once I create a lot of content in general, I realized that that's what I had a passion for.
Mhm.
Although I made money with trading and I love trading and I love teaching people how to trade, I realized that fostering a community is really what I love doing. And I think we could dive really deep into not only the tactics of how to foster a community, but also to lean into your passion, even if you don't have any money to your name or you don't even know what to do. It's very important to make sure that you're leaning very, very deep into your passion and making sure that you actually impact others in the process because when you provide value to others,
Yeah.
value inevitably comes back in return. So I'm very, very excited to dive deep into different realms
Mhm.
with not only how to foster a community, but also doubling down on your passion and also monetizing from it ultimately.
Right. So there's multiple things that you touched upon that a lot of people would be interested in, which is basically monetizing their passion, creating a community. Because I understand that creating the community these days is core around creating a business, because that's where your core believers are and who believe in the idea or whatever you're selling, right? So that's how it is. Now, let's get to the first thing. How did you, I mean, how was your journey like uh, about getting to self-learn, right? Before you could even teach, you had to learn the whole thing, right? So what kind of resources were you using? Were you using AI? Were you leveraging any specific websites? What kind of stuff was it?
Yeah, good question. So when I first started trading and self-learning, it was the beginning of COVID. So we're
Uh,
well over 5 years now for the whole self-learning, self-help sector. But I didn't use AI. I didn't even know anything about artificial intelligence at this point in time. So it was YouTube University. And I think all of the resources are accessible to anybody who wants them. It's
yeah,
about actually allocating your time towards it.
that's right.
And it doesn't have to be 17 hours a day. It could be an hour, 2 hours a day. Just make sure that
Uh,
you're disciplined and consistent. A lot of people say, how do I find consistency? It's not motivation, in my opinion, because there's going to be a lot of times when you don't feel motivated, but you're still going to have to do it.
mhm.
And you don't want to rely on motivation for why you should be doing things. You really want to motivate, or excuse me, you really want to rely on your discipline, on your work ethic, on your grit, because that's the only thing that's going to sustainably allow you to find success or happiness in whatever field you're looking for. So I would say YouTube has countless amount of resources, but at the end of the day, there are different websites, I'm sure, in whatever industry that you're looking to pursue that is a cornerstone for whatever it may be. So yeah, I mean, with Forex, it's babypips.com. There's so many different courses that are for free that you could go in and literally for days on end just learn so much, absorb so many different resources, and
Yeah.
then go from there. The most valuable asset that any of us have is time. It's not money, it's time. And I always tell people who are going into the Forex industry or any industry in general, consume as much free content as you can. You don't need to buy courses. You don't need to buy mentorships. You could
Yeah.
spend months consuming free resources and you'll probably know more than 90% of others just in that whatever industry you're looking to pursue. So I really think it's important to double down on the free resources. And it's not about not being able to find it. It's about actually allocating the time and energy that's actually required because the fact of the matter is people just don't want to allocate the time and energy. They say they don't have enough time, but
Yeah.
they're scrolling through TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. They're watching Netflix at night. So I think that isn't a problem. I'm not going to demonize that because if you're happy and you're doing those things, you're going to Netflix, you're in a basketball league, whatever it may be, that's completely fine. But I'm more looking at the people who are unhappy with their current scenario
Yes.
and they're spending their time on TikTok, Instagram, escaping from their current reality.
That's true.
Instead of doing that, why don't you actually learn a skill that could get you out of your current scenario? So it's very important to not only allocate the time, but don't be delusional to your end goals. If you have a goal in mind, then
Yeah.
actually you're going to have to put your blood, sweat, and tears. And I'm sure you could resonate with it. Having a podcast or having different things that you do on a day-to-day basis,
Yeah.
you're going to have to allocate a lot of time and energy to actually bear the fruits of those labor. So think it's very important to not overcomplicate the whole entire process of going to these free resources. Literally go into Google free courses on marketing, and I guarantee you there'll be 17 different things. Look at the reviews, and then you could go from there. But the idea that people are lost finding the free resources, I think those are excuses for they don't want to actually put the time and energy effort in, especially nowadays. Now that you mentioned we do have artificial intelligence, it
Yeah.
even got easier to get access to
Yes,
these
that's true.
resources.
That's
So, yeah, I mean, it was YouTube for me. I followed one or two influencers who I knew were very
Mhm.
reliable, especially in the Forex space. The trading
Yeah.
space is super scammy, and there a lot of people connected to a pyramid scheme, and that's just because they don't have enough knowledge about the industry itself. But make sure that you find a couple figures in the space or a couple different resources in the space and
Mhm.
go deep, not wide. Just go super deep into that industry or that niche. And if you give yourself a couple months of properly educating yourself, you'll be a different
Very.
person on the other side.
That makes a lot of sense. And I also resonate with that because, yeah, me coming here, doing a podcast every day, trying to release one episode every other day, that consistency counts, right? Even though I may not be getting any views, specifically, my followership might not rise, but still, I have to be consistent day in and day out just to have this episode coming out and be consistent with it so that
And
people,
if I could go off of that really quickly, I think it's important that you mention that because a lot of people rely on arbitrary metrics for why they
yeah,
continue to go. And if you're relying on follows, likes, shares, those KPIs that ultimately mean nothing in the end, you're very vulnerable because once you just said, if you post a video and it gets 17 views, you're not going to be as motivated to post that next video if you're relying on that metric.
that's right.
So you do have to have some type of love for the industry or love for what you're doing,
That's right.
but also realizing that it's a long-term game and not a short-term game. If you're in it for the views, the likes, the follows, you're trying to feed your ego. You're not trying to help others.
Yeah.
So I think it's very important that you mention that, and it's something that your listeners should actually really resonate with. Don't be so obsessed with the metrics that these algorithms are pushing you. Be
Yeah.
obsessed with the process of trying to impact others and just provide value and let the chips fall where they may. Because once you provide value, whether it be in short form, long form content, video, audio, written word, whatever it may be,
Yeah.
ultimately you will reap the rewards, whether it be 1 month, 1 year, 10 years. It doesn't matter. If you're passionate about it, you doing it should be the reward, not the metrics itself. So don't be super obsessed with the metrics. Be obsessed with the process of becoming better each and every day. And I know this is like rah rah motivational, but this is a perspective shift that your viewers and your listeners have to have. And whenever they're going into an industry or a side hustle, you have to shift your
Yeah.
perspective to that growth mindset of not being obsessed with the day by day, but year by year. It's a
Uh-huh.
marathon here. So I'm glad that you mentioned that. I just wanted to add on top of that.
Quite a good addition, to be very frank. That makes a lot of sense, and a lot of people would relate to that for sure. Now, but coming to the next part of it, so you got success and you realize that you have a knack for talking about it and then letting other people know and sharing it, right? Now, sharing it is one part, right? Like we are sitting here having a conversation, trying to share this with the whole world. But then there is the other part where you go out and do it on some platform, right? You might be using YouTube, or you might be using TikTok, Instagram, something of
Mhm.
that sort. Uh, there comes the community. Okay, that's one way the community reacts. Now, how are you doing this? What's special in your method? Is there I don't know, a trick that you found out?
Yeah, so very good question. So I had many different modalities of how I was going to share my content.
Hmm.
Obviously, I post on the most organic platforms, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. TikTok was my biggest winner because I started posting in 2020, 2021 when the
Right.
algorithm favored a lot of these small creators. And not to say it doesn't favor small creators nowadays, it's just a little bit more difficult, right? These platforms mature just like anything else. It's a little bit more difficult to get
Yeah.
more traction on these algorithms than it was when it first came out. So I was kind of capitalizing on TikTok, not only just by posting content, but by
Mhm.
going live. People like to see
Right.
the raw, unedited version of yourself behind the scenes because we all know people who post content, majority of people who post content,
Yeah.
I'm not going to say it's a facade, but they got the scripts, they have the edits, they have the quick cuts, and that's just not human nature. When we talk like we are right now, there's a lot of unedited versions that a lot of people like to see. So I found that going live on TikTok was one of the best ways for me to foster this community.
Okay.
And I was posting a lot of content that was surfacing well and indexing well. And then what I would do is I would go into my lives and I would talk about the things that was surfacing well on my content.
Okay.
So, for example, if I posted a piece of content, the 5 best ways to get introduced into Forex, and
Hmm.
it indexed really well. What am I going to do the next day? I'm going to go into my live and I'm going to start talking about those 5 different ways because I realized they resonated well once
Yeah.
I posted that piece of content yesterday. So that worked really well. And then from there, I realized people wanted to watch me trade live.
Okay.
So what I did after that was I actually created a screen broadcast where I would actually go live every single day with my traders and or people who were willing to watch me and I would live trade right in front of their face, right? Not
Okay.
many people. There are some people. I'm not going to say I was the only one and I am the only
Yeah.
one, but not many people are willing to put their reputation and life on the line like I was when it came to I'm going live on TikTok. Thousands of people could watch me if they want, and you could copy my trades live time for free. Most people are either charging a membership or a premium
Okay.
cost attached to that. So I didn't care. I wanted people to show, I wanted to vet myself in the manner of I have no reputation. I don't have any significance in the industry. And mind you, I'm talking 4 or 5 years ago. I have nothing. The people don't
Yeah.
know me. How are they going to know me? They're going to know me by going into my lives and saying, wow, this kid's actually trading in front of everybody. It's impossible to scam somebody or look like
Yeah.
a fraud when you're doing it live in front of their face and they could see it for themselves. So I was very serious about creating that authenticity. I was very serious about creating that transparency in an industry that was very fraudulent, in an industry that was very scammy. 95% of influencers claimed to make money, but they didn't make a cent, right? They were either selling a course or a mentorship on the back end. So I was very serious about fostering this community, but also I
Yeah.
was very serious about answering questions when people would pop them up. I was very serious about relocating them into a separate platform so that everyone could have open conversation and questions with each other. So I do have a Discord community. It's not as active now just because I'm not as on the forefront of creating a community because I am veering and doing other projects like creating platforms and apps for traders, which we could touch upon if you'd like to in a little bit. But in order to create that community, you need to have real authenticity, being transparent. and being focused on value first. So the lives was very good for creating that community, but then funneling them into maybe a different platform, or who knows, maybe even the same platform. Instagram has that feature now where they have that community-based thread where people could just message each other in one single thread. They have there's a lot of different ways to create communities. It's really about finding your own flavor and whatever works best for you. I also found that not monetizing is a reverse psychology feature or tactic that a lot of people resonate with in saying, wow, this kid's not even making any money off of his community. I'm going to listen more of what he has to say because he's not making any money off of it.
Yeah.
It's a little unauthentic. And again, for people who are monetizing off their communities, it's no hate. Do what you got to do to make your money,
Yeah.
right? But me personally, when I am listening to an influencer or I'm listening to a mentor, if at the end of the funnel it's for me to buy a course, mentorship, or a program,
Yeah.
it seemed a little less authentic.
Yeah.
So I made sure to flip that on its head, and I'm giving everything that people pay for in courses, and I'm giving it all for free. And again, letting the chips fall where they may. There's really good, fruitful relationships and connections that I've made off of the back of me providing this free content and this free value. So I always say that you'll never regret providing your best value for free. And I truthfully still stand on that to this day. I still don't have a course, a mentorship, or a trading signals group to this day for that exact reason because I
Okay.
make enough money off of trading. I make enough money off of different various projects that I don't need to monetize off my community. Now, that
Yeah.
may not be the luxury for a lot of people, but if you plan on your main source of income being your community, I think it's a flawed tactic right off of the bat because you'll make shortcuts. You'll do things that may not be the best practiced or may not have the best morale in it.
Hmm.
And I think having a good heart, a good soul, and a good brain at the end of the day, it really leads to great business success because at the end of the day, you want to create those good connections and you want to be authentic because your name is everything.
Yeah. Now, on that community part, where you're not monetizing your community, I do agree with you on that because, yeah, that community is being created to create value, not just from yourself, but in itself as well, right? And if you trying to be the center of it and trying to extract value from that community is not exactly making it self-fulfilling in that form. So that
Exactly.
really does make sense. Now, when it comes to, I know I did we already talk about this? You mentioned we talked a lot about social media, right? So, what's one thing that you figured out was not working and then you flipped the script? If there is one lesson you can share.
Yeah. I did a lot of things that didn't work in the beginning, I must say,
Mm.
as anybody will do, right?
Yeah.
I pondered about the thought of actually creating content. When
Mm-hmm.
I first started trading, I wasn't making money.
Mm-hmm.
Just being real, I wasn't making money at first.
Yeah.
So I pondered on the idea of, do people even want to watch my journey? Do people even want to hear what I have to say? I'm not making any
Yeah.
money. I'm a bum sitting on my couch and trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
There was a 3, 4 month span when I first started trading. I didn't post anything.
Okay.
And to this day, it still bothers me because people love the journey and the transparency that one provides. You don't need to feel like you have to be an expert in your field to create content. No, that's not true.
Okay.
People like to be a part of your journey more than they like an expert, right?
Uh-huh.
Everyone thinks that you need to be an expert in your field to create content. You definitely don't, right?
Yeah.
As long as you have good heart, good soul, and a good brain, like I mentioned before, and you really are putting your best foot forward and being transparent about it, then that's the best way to go about it. Another thing is something that I really regret is I took a lot of the comments to heart.
Yeah.
And I was very, very obsessed. The first couple, 3, 6 months of creating content, I was very vulnerable when it came to people leaving hate comments on my page. And I obviously flipped the script because I continued to do it after that and I was fine. But it's very important for your listeners to hear that if somebody else is projecting negativity on your content, you have to feel bad for them rather than feeling
Yeah.
anger and feeling like you're ugly or feeling like you're less
Uh,
than, because you're going to get all of the comments in the world saying exactly that. You don't know what you're talking about. You're stupid. You're ugly. You don't deserve to be posting content, whatever it may be.
mhm.
The idea of me going to someone's page and posting a negative comment on their video is ludicrous, because that just means that I'm insecure within, I'm projecting it.
Yeah.
So we have to really feel for these types of people. We have to feel bad for them. We have to, like, I'm actually praying for these types of people that are leaving negative comments. But at first I did not have that view. I was very defensive of like, what? You don't know what you're talking about. You're ugly, right? You're stupid. So it's, you don't want to fall into that funnel or into that whole cycle of negativity. You kind of just want to feel for them and be like, I hope you feel better. I'm going to stay on my course. Now, at the end of the day, you have to reanalyze your content. If everybody is posting negative stuff and there's no positive stuff, you have to take a
Get it.
hard, long look at your content and say, okay, what is the message I'm trying to get across?
Yeah.
But there's always negative comments on people that are providing great value. And you can't take those to heart per se. You kind of just have to take it for how it is. And there's always that famous quote of like, if you're not getting hate, you're not doing things right. So
Okay.
hate comes in all different forms, and hate comes when you actually have things in motion. But it's about how you respond to that hate.
Okay.
And also, I'm just going into a couple different things here because I think these are things that people go through.
Perfectly fine.
It's also getting past the idea of other people, whether it's your friends, your family, people from high school, like it's getting past their criticism and outside validation. That was another obstacle that I had to get across when I first started posting
Okay.
was, well, what are my friends from high school going to think? What's my mom and dad going to think? What's my cousin going to think? And the quicker you get away from that, the better and faster you will find success in however you define it. There's a quote that says in your 20s, you care way too much about what other people think. In
Uh-huh.
your 30s, you usually care a little bit less. And in your 40s, you realize that they didn't even care in the first place. So the quicker you get to your 40s, the 40s mentality
Yeah.
of somebody's going to scroll up upon your video and they'll judge in their head for 2 seconds. Maybe they'll even leave a comment. Who cares? And then their bills are due. They have to pick up their kids or they have to go run the errands and they forgot about whatever you posted. It's
That,
real.
that's true.
I mean, other people will look at your video for 2 seconds, will think about you for 20 seconds and make their judgments based on whatever's in their life, and then their day continues.
Yeah.
So don't get so wrapped up on other people's validation. Don't get so wrapped up on other people's criticism, because we all know the saying of it's your life, live it your way.
Mhm.
Don't, the last thing you want to do when you're 80, 90 years old on your deathbed is say that you lived for outside validation and you didn't live your life to the fullest because you were worried about what Tom and Jim were thinking about you. So I really do think very, very heavily now about, it may sound morbid, but what I will be thinking on my deathbed. What are going to be my regrets in my life? And I will never regret posting something that I deem valuable and thinking about other people. I mean, I don't, at this point in time in my life, in my content creation career, I do not think, oh, I'm worried what this person's going to say, just because I don't crave outside validation. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, I've heard this a lot of times, and yeah, it's good to get that validated across multiple people, right? That, yeah, you should be ignoring that specific comment that is not actually creating value. I mean, you have to sit back and then look at, is it actually creating value, or is it just somebody's frustration coming out on the platform itself?
correct.
So that's how it is. Now, you mentioned that you were talking about making some platforms. I'll come to that in a bit. Just wanted to ask, okay, now Forex is a very tough market to crack, very tough industry to crack. For people out there who are just getting started or looking at it, right? Not, I'm not talking about learning what they should be learning about. I'm not talking about experience that they need to create. Is there a specific mindset that you had that you had to build? Okay, if there's something that needs to be worked upon.
Yes, 1000%. I like how you mentioned at first, we don't have to mention the education. Educating yourself is very important. Absolutely. It's
Yeah.
all free. We've already discussed that.
Yeah.
From there, it's recognizing that this is a marathon, not a sprint. You're not going to make money the first couple months trading Forex, maybe not even the first couple years. If you internally address that, things get way easier because you aren't taking sprints, short-term sprints that
Mm.
are going to lead you in an endless cycle of failure.
Okay.
You need to take practical steps that end up into a marathon, not a sprint. And what I mean by that is if you're getting so frustrated that you're not profitable with Forex or whatever industry it may be, it's probably because you're taking shortcuts. You're buying trading signals. You're buying mentorships because you want to fast track the process.
Yeah.
Whenever somebody asks me, how do I find what's the fastest way to become profitable in Forex? I instantly go remove the word fast
Uh-huh.
because that is messing you up. If you are so obsessed with how fast you're going to find profitability, you're never going to get there. It's just like, how fast can I make money, right? How fast could I do this, X, Y, B? If you remove the word fast, the process is so much easier and it's so much more less anxiety.
Yeah.
So I think it's about restructuring your brain into recognizing that anything that is that is worth working towards or has value, it doesn't happen fast. To create a very good business, to create a good revenue, a stream of revenue, to create a really good community, it doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen in months. Sometimes it doesn't happen in a year. It takes a while. But that's what makes it more valuable. That's what makes it a very, very fruitful journey. So obviously, you have traders that are profitable in a couple months. You have traders that are profitable in 6 months. You have traders that are profitable in a year. But it's about removing the stress and anxiety that we place on ourselves each and every day that we're not profitable. And I deal with this on a day-to-day basis of people saying, I'm still not profitable after 3 months. I'm still not profitable after 5 months. And it took me 2 years to find profitability in the foreign exchange market. And I wasn't not making money, I was losing money, right? Trading's that rare industry where even if you learn so much, and you're still working towards making money, it's one of those industries where you could actually be losing money, right?
Yeah.
So it's very anxiety driven, and you have to wrap your head around the idea that it's going to take a while. Now, when I say that, the other side of me says that means you're going to need to have practical income while you're learning. That's why Forex is amazing because you could do it after your 9 to 5. It's 24 hours a day, 5 days a week. It's just closed on the weekends. It's not like the stock market where it's just 9 to 5. So it's never been more practical if you're a college student or a single mother. I've worked with single mothers, or you work at whatever it may be, right? You could learn 2, 3 hours a day and gain this knowledge and then apply that knowledge. You really don't need money to start trading Forex. A lot of people think there's always a common misconception that you need so much money to start trading Forex. You don't. You really do not. You need time.
Okay.
So if you restructure your mindset into this is a marathon, not a sprint, and it doesn't matter how long it's going to take me to find profitability because I have my job paying for my bills,
Yeah.
then you've already won. But most people don't go into it like that. They're like, Mike, I have $1,000 to my name. How do I flip that to $10,000? And you're just placing so much anxiety on yourself. You're already lost from the beginning because you don't have the right mentality going into the industry. And let me tell you something. If you go into the foreign exchange market, one of the most liquid market in the entire world,
Yeah.
if you go into those markets emotional and without a plan, it will eat you up and spit you out.
Yes.
So that's why it's very important to have this mindset that I'm going to go in, not trade right away. I'm going to educate myself properly. I'm going to plan. I'm not going to gamble. I'm going to have statistical data going into the markets. And I'm going to let the chips fall where they may. If it takes me 3 months, cool. If it takes me 6 months, cool. If it takes me 2 years, cool. But by the end of it, I could make six figures. I could make money literally by looking at a screen. These are the things you need to be thinking of when you're going into the industry.
Right. Thank you so much. Because yeah, there's one thing that's learning, there's one thing that comes with experience, but there's the mindset that has to be consistent throughout the journey, right? So yeah, thanks for providing that insight. Now,
Absolutely.
the last thing that we were going to talk about was the platforms and apps that you mentioned somewhere in between that you were developing. So, would you like to share something about that?
Yeah, so obviously being in the trading industry for quite some time, I've recognized that there's some shortcomings in the industry.
Hmm.
So I wouldn't consider myself a special individual that is
Right.
super intelligent and is very different from others. I'm just very hardworking and I'm consistent each and every day. So I've recognized a lot of voids in the financial industry.
Okay.
So I had a partner reach out who's now my business partner, but I had somebody reach out to me while I was creating content, amassing this community over now 27,000 followers on TikTok, and which isn't a lot, by the way. It's just something that I'm proud of just because I started from zero, which anybody should be proud of where they're at currently. But I've had somebody reach out to me wanting to do projects. So I've done multiple projects like courses and stuff like that, but not under my name. I've helped them do it. So I've just like kind of created the content for them. They've packaged it and they've sold courses on their own. But when I've actually partnered with this certain individual, they're super knowledgeable in a sector of trading that I actually know nothing about, and that's affiliate marketing. And that's the commercial side, working with the brokers. I didn't have knowledge with that. I'm just a retail trader that helps other retail traders. I've
Right.
never worked with CEOs of brokers. I've never worked with affiliates. I don't really know that side of trading, and this guy knew it really well.
Okay.
So when he came to me, he actually we discussed kind of the voids in the financial industry, and we've created a seamless unified platform for retail traders, for marketers, and for brokers, where all of these roles will fit into one seamless platform. Because we realize if you're a trader, you will recognize that the financial trading industry is super fragmented. In
Mhm.
order to do trading analysis, you need to go on one platform. In order to place the trade, you need to go on another platform. For economic news, you need to go on one platform. To manage risk, you need to go on another platform. For community, you need to go on another platform. To learn, you need to go on another. There's countless
Yeah.
amount of platforms that you need to go on just to trade. So and even for marketers to market your courses or to market the broker that you're connected with. There's so many different platforms to track your metrics and to foster your community. It's a nightmare. It's a headache. So right now, we're currently in the development process. It's been 2.5 years that we've been designing and developing this app. But it's going to be one that's going to completely disrupt the financial industry because it has what we mentioned in the beginning: good morals,
Mhm.
good spirits, and a good brain.
Yeah.
And it's going to be one of those platforms that's going to completely revolutionize the financial industry because nobody has really changed or revolutionized the financial industry in over 20 years.
Okay.
So, at least the trading industry. The trading industry has not been revolutionized. There is no single app that revolutionizes the trading industry. 95% of people who trade Forex, they trade on MT4 and MT5. And if you've ever used any one of those platforms, you'll recognize they're not user friendly. It's not very appealing to a lot of people, and it's confusing. You have to go to multiple platforms. So we've completely flipped it on its head, and we're really hoping quarter 1, quarter 2 of 2026 that we'll be able to display everything that we've been working on over the past couple of years. And I'm super excited about it. But let me tell you, it's taken a lot of energy, consistency, and effort, like we've mentioned in this episode. So I'm super excited about it.
That sounds great. And yeah, all the best to you on that journey, right? Thank you for joining me in on this episode of Your Lab Central. It's been an awesome conversation going from community to starting up from nowhere and getting that learning, that mindset. So thank you for joining me. And before we close, where can people get in touch with you and know more about you?
Yeah, thank you for having me, by the way. It was a pleasure being on here. Hopefully, I could be on again in the future. But people could join in and see the behind scenes of my life at Mike Caprio, MikeCaprio _ on Instagram. That's probably the best way to get a deeper look at what I do. And you could do that on TikTok as well. I would love to give you a follow back as well. Thank you so much for having me on here.
Thank you so much for joining in, Michael. And to the audience who's been watching and listening, thanks for joining in. If you liked what we talked about, do leave a like. The comment section is always open for suggestions, perspectives, or if you have something to add to the conversation, do leave a comment. And don't forget to subscribe before you close the window itself. Thank you so much for joining in. Thank you so much, Michael. And it was great having this conversation. Thank you so much.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate it.